what do we mean when we talk about Vedic knowledge or Vaidika? Let's revise a little bit of the Sanskrit that we have seen. This is Vai, Di, Ka. Vaidika is nothing else that all the literature that has been downloaded by the rishis, knowledge that comes from heaven. That's why it's called Shruti. It comes from space. Shruti means that which has been heard. So this tradition, oral tradition, that goes from guru to disciple is called parampa. There was a moment where all this knowledge was so huge that there was a need to organize it, to group it. So this is where Rishi Vyasa came to organize, to divide all this Vedic knowledge into 4 big groups or bodies. Why did he do this? He wanted to give more clarity to the content of Veda. Rig Veda is the first group. Yayu Veda is the second one. Sama Veda, the third. And the Atharma Veda. Then each one of these groups was subdivided into 4 sections or kandas. Kanda. So each one of these Vedas has a kanda that is classified according to the knowledge. For example, let's choose the one group of knowledge. But it's the same for the 4 groups, right? The same thing is for the 4 groups. So which are the kandas? Samhita is the first one. Second is Brahmana. Next is Aranjaka. And the 4th one is the Upanishad. So there is an Upanishad for each one of these bodies or groups of knowledge. What is Samhita? Samhita has to do with mantras, actions that we can do when we sing, which one to sing. So this explains, Brahmana explains how, and Samhita explains what, right? So Brahmana is how to do that, and then Aranyaka and Upanishad has to do with knowledge, right? Upanishad means to sit next to the master, to the truth. So from those roots in the sea, the Upanishad reaches, for example, in the Atharva Veda or the Upanishads in the Sama Veda, right? But to understand all this knowledge, the Vedas, to be able to understand each one of these kandas, first we need to understand the Vedangas, which are the supports for that knowledge, right? Vedangas, again, is 6 different categories of text that has been grouped. And in each one of those categories, there are, of course, hundreds of texts. The first one is Shiksha, phonetics. What we're learning now, no? Phonetics, the letters in Devanagari, how they sign, right, in Devanagari. The second one is Kalpa, which are the sutras. How do we use them? Kalpas, there are kalpas also for geometry, because the yagnas have to do a lot with geometry. Then Nirupta. It's like a dictionary. That's where we have all the words, the significance of the world. More than 2,000 Sanskrit roots, what do they mean? And then how to make sentences, the syntaxis, the Vyakraman, grammatic is there. All the ancient text in grammatic, Panini, remember that? And then the other group is the metric, poetry in Vedanta, the rhythm of a poetry. A 6th support is Yotisha. Yotisha includes astronomy and astrology. Everything that has to do with the knowledge of the universe, which was very, very high, very deep knowledge of the universe. They understood, for example, that the Earth was orbiting the sun thousands of years before Galileo, right? the expansion of the universe, the everything that we have now understood was written there. So there is an initial level, which is the Vaidika, which is the knowledge that was revealed, knowledge that came from space. It has no human author, right? And then comes the second level, the Lokika. Lokika. That's literature. Now, this is literature that comes from the word. Loka means world. So it's knowledge that comes from the world. There, for example, you have the Puranas. Puranas, there are many, in different categories. All the mythologies, the stories that were told, that explain the Vedas through stories in mythological beings, grouped there. Ittihasa, the second group, which is strictly what we now call history. Things that really happened. Then we'll see some examples. And then Dharma Shastras, Tantra Shastras, and then the Darshana Shastras. Everything that human beings have composed, they come from men, they have copyright, they have an author that we can trace down to that author. And these are the categories. So let's look at one, for example, Lokika, right? Puranas, we talked about the different stories, mythologies. Within the history, we have Ramayana, for example. Valmiki wrote the Ramayana. So Rama was actually a historical figure. And the Mahabharata, written by Vyasa, is the whole story of Krishna. Krishna also was a historical figure. Not mythological, but historical. I mean, people that walked on earth, right? That's the difference with the Puranas. These are the Ittihasa, history. Another category has to do with the laws. How these knowledge is implemented. And then the Tantra Shastras, techniques, the tantric texts are techniques to apply that knowledge. And then Darshana means philosophy, all the different schools of philosophy. This is at a human level, all the written literature. We could say, okay, we finished there, right? No, there is another category in the Vedas, the Sahita. Sahita is what we now know as contemporary literature. For the Vedas, contemporary is from the first century on. Everything that has been written in the last 2,000 years. So that's what we would call our literature. This is contemporary for Vedanta. So we have different categories there. We have poetry, Gaya, Kavya, Jampu, and we also have Rupaka. Rupaka means drama. And within each one of these categories, there are different books, thousands of books. I don't know. For example, there are 10 categories for Rupaka in theater. One could be, tragedy, comedy. So this is the way they organized the text written in the last 2,000 years. This is where we consider our story to start, right? But look back the thousands of years before that. But then that's not all. There are other texts called Devikas. Devikas means that belong to the Devas, Bija, mantras. These are very mysterious texts. There is no tracing to the origin of these texts. What do they mean? Where do they come from? There is a lot of mystery there. What I mean, this is so huge. This is so huge. There is so much in every one of these categories. There is so much that we have to look into Vedas. For example, when we look at the Bhagavad Gita, we're looking at one tiny leaf in this tree, right? So we have 5,000 years of written tradition, and then thousands and thousands of years of oral tradition, millenary knowledge. This has been downloaded from space by the rishis. They sang, and that song became a book in the Paramparam. If someone asks me who wrote physics, physics is a joint effort from many scientists, I would say rishis, from different times and places along history that have discovered natural laws. So there is not one author of physics. We could say that physics also, because the discoveries of natural laws comes from the human inspiration, no? So it's the same idea. It is not crazy to say that this knowledge was present in space. It is like saying that the equations in physics were present, the laws of physics were present, waiting to be discovered. That makes a lot of sense. So we're going to look at the first sutra now, chapter 15, Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna talks to Arjuna about this tree that is upside down. This talk was given by Sri Ravi Shankar in Hindi. So I'm using the translation into English. So excuse any inaccuracies. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Urdhvamulamādhashākham Ashvatham Prahuravyayam Chandamsi yasya parnāni yastam veda savedavit. Sri Bhagavan said, he who knows the tree of people that is unperishable, with the roots in the being, in the primordial being. The leaves are the Vedas. He who knows this tree is the knowledge of the meaning of Vedas. You see this world that changes all the time, but it's also eternal. It is present. Forever has been present forever. There is no beginning, and the roots are up. If the roots of a tree were down, it would be easy to uproot them. But if the roots are up, to understand this, it's almost impossible. There is no limit to space, to the sky. There is no limit to time and space. So this indicates infinite. When this world was created, who was the first human being? The effort to understand this is useless, because there is no beginning. Which are the roots? Which are the leaves? Which are the branches? Okay, the leaves are the Vedas. So the object is there, but the ability to know what that is, the process by which we know it, is Vedas. These are not the roots, these are the leaves. Whether you understand it or not, the roots will always be there. The leaves can come and go, but the tree will always be there. For example, in autumn, the leaves fall, but the tree remains there. But through the leaves, we can know something about the roots. All these branches and leaves are there, but the roots are beyond time, are infinite. This is the tree. This is the source of life. It is not in this world. Do not look for it here. This life force is not here. You have to look for it in Akasha, in space, up. Everything comes from there. This world that you see is like a shadow. Reality is invisible. If you want to know reality, you have to go upwards. What do you mean upwards? What do I mean upwards? Beyond this world made of 5 elements. You need to go beyond the elements. When you can see the world, you cannot see divinity. It's impossible. And when you start to see the divinity, the world vanishes. The Vedas, the Puranas, all the scriptures talk about this world. So there is this world and the consciousness that governs the world. So the consciousness that governs the world is related to this world. So that's what the leaves point towards. This is like a web of words, but this web of words will take you to knowledge. To be able to reach that knowledge, we have to go through the words. We need to transcend the words. Do not look the source in this world. The source is beyond space and time. What is visible to us, what happens around us, you try to trace the cause within this life, within this earth, and many times the cause is connected to some karma that is beyond. To understand that the cause of all the events is beyond, then you can start knowing the Vedas. And this has been happening over thousands of years, and it will continue to happen.